For the first Mirth Connect demonstration, I'm going to show HL7 mapping and routing. This will involve an inbound HL7 message, creating mappings, and then routing that message to multiple destinations. First, a lab information system will send an HL7 ORU R01 message to Mirth Connect using MLLP. Mirth Connect will receive that message, and it will insert the patient data from the message into an EHR database. For its second destination, it will create a PDF document with the extracted demographic data. And for its third destination, it will send an email message with that PDF it created as an attachment. So in this case, we're going to be focusing on the LLP to database, PDF, and email channel. You can see now we haven't received or sent any messages. Let's go in and edit this channel. On the source, you can see we're receiving over LLP. All of these are actually default settings. We're going to send back ACKs automatically, and nothing has been changed on this connector. As a filter, we're only accepting messages of type ORU R01. And in the transformer, we're pulling out many mappings, such as the PID, the first name, the last name, gender, and so on. You can see as you go through these mappings, they appear and become available to you on the right. There are over 20 mappings, and then there are a couple JavaScript steps as well. I won't get too much into detail with the JavaScript steps, but this JavaScript step is basically going through all of the OBX segments in the inbound message and adding them into an array. We're going to use these variables later to build up a table. On the destination side, my first destination is writing the patient information into the database. I selected PostgreSQL as the driver and inserted the URL template. The database name is demo, and I put in my username and password. As you can see, there's already some SQL here, but let me show you how this SQL was generated. If I hit insert, and then I hit get tables, I'll see the query of all the tables on the database that I've specified. I can select everything in that table. I don't need to select from the first ID because that's the primary key for the table. Go ahead and hit generate, and you'll see I have the same insert statement as below. I am missing the values, however. All of the values that I mapped in the source connector are available to me on the right here. I'll drag and drop the PID. I'll drag and drop the first name, last name, and so on. You can see how with about 20 mappings, I fill in the entire insert. Once that's done, I should have something that looks like the code here. The next destination is generating a PDF from the patient information and writing it to a file. In this case, I specified the directory to write to. The file name was actually a variable that I used and dragged and dropped over. I specified that file name in that source connector in the source transformer. I chose to write out a PDF. I'm not encrypting it. And then I put in an HTML template. This HTML template includes CSS and a bunch of HTML that generates a nicely formatted HTML page. This HTML will then be converted into a PDF. If you scroll through here, you can see where I put in some of the variables. In this table, I put in the first name and the last name. Once again, I dragged and dropped. Just drag it over. Same with the last name. Drag it over from the mappings I've already assigned in the source. I kept going through there, and eventually I looped through the OBX segments that I assigned to that list in the source connector JavaScript step, and I put those into a table. In the resulting PDF, you'll see exactly why I did that. Finally, I'm sending this PDF as an email attachment in the SMTP sender. I specified my SNMP information, who I'm going to send to, who it's from. The subject, I put in some variables. In the subject of the email, it's going to say it's a lab report, and it's going to say the patient's name and the date. In the body of the email, I'm not using HTML, but I did want to specify some information, so I put the patient's last name, first name, social security number, some basic demographic information. I don't have any special email headers, but I did specify an attachment. Once again, I'm using the file name. The PDF content is something I actually read in this transformer for this destination, and the MIME type is an application PDF. That's the MIME type of the attachment. If I want to see how I generate that PDF file, I could look at the transformer, and I'll see here I'm actually reading in the bytes from a file in the file system, and I'm encoding it into base 64. All of these methods are available to you in the reference over on the right. Say if you wanted to encode a file, you can say base 64 encode. And if you wanted to read a file, or read the bytes of a file, you could say read bytes. And here you can see how I generated the exact line above just by inserting the file name and putting the variable into the channel map. So let's try and process a message through this channel. I already have this channel deployed, so I just need to send it a message. In order to send to this channel using MLLP and sending over port 6661, I'll use an external tool. This is called HL7 Inspector. It's a free and open source tool, and normally I would use Mirth to send this message, but in this case I wanted to show an external tool talking to Mirth Connect. I'll send the message that's listed here. I'll make sure that the host and port are configured. And now I'll hit send. As you can see here, this message was sent, and Mirth Connect generated automatically and sent back the accept ACK. This acknowledgement was automatically generated based on the message that was sent in. If I look at Mirth Connect, I'll see it has received one for the source message that was received, and it sent 3 messages, one for each of the 3 destinations. The first destination that it sent to was writing to this database. You can see it's currently empty, so let me refresh it. Now I have one new row. All of the patient information that was in that message and was inserted as the first destination is now in this table. The second destination was actually writing out a PDF to the file system. Rather than showing that, I'll show you the email that it sent as the third destination. If you remember, the third destination was actually just sending out the same PDF that was written out in the second destination. If I load my email, I can see that the email was just received, and I can see the lab report with the patient demographic information in the subject and in the body. I'll go ahead and view this PDF. Here's the PDF that Mirth Connect generated, and here's the table including all of the OBX segment information that we loop through with the JavaScript step. Let's see what happens when I try and send this a message that's supposed to be filtered. Once again, I'll open up HL7 Inspector, except this time I'll change it from ORU R01, let's change it to R02. I'll go ahead and hit send. And we'll see now that the acknowledgement that Mirth Connect sent back was an AR with message rejected. If we look at Mirth Connect, we'll see it's filtered one message now. So it didn't receive that message. Instead, since it was on the source, it filtered that message. If you were to filter out messages on the destinations, they would be received and then filtered on the destinations instead of sent.